From our studios around the world, this is the Taste of Place podcast. Each month, we share stories from the keepers of culinary culture and heritage to spark ideas for your professional path or your next travel adventure. I'm your host, Eric Wolf. Thanks for listening. Today's guest is Allison Robicelli, a James Beard-nominated writer, former celebrity chef, and restaurant owner turned cultural intelligence consultant. She has written for publications including the New York Times, Bon Appétit, and the Washington Post, where she created the first dedicated non-alcoholic beverage column in major food media. Known for her unconventional approach to destination storytelling, Allison specializes in uncovering the overlooked food cultures of secondary and post-industrial cities and translating them into compelling media narratives. Her work blends food, culture, and journalism with a sharp focus on how places are truly experienced beyond the surface.
Allison, hey, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am excited to have a conversation with you. When you wrote to us and said, I wanted to be on your show, and we get a lot of pitches, and I looked you up and I thought, City Whisperer. This woman sounds really interesting. How do you become a city whisperer?
It's a job I sort of invented, and I kind of fell into it by accident. Before I did this, I've been a food writer and an author for quite a long time, well over a decade. The more I talk about my experience and the longer it gets, the more I have to contemplate time. So we're just going to go with gray areas time. But yeah, I was just at the Washington Post. I've been writing for Serious Eats and Bon Appetit. I was at the Takeout for quite a while. And before that, I was a chef in New York City, and I owned a relatively famous bakery in Brooklyn, New York. And I've been writing about food and creating food for ages, but I didn't get to do a lot of traveling. When you own a business actually owns you. I had 2 young kids who are now in college, but any parent will tell you that jet setting or traveling or having adventures when you're a parent, you're really playing more to the kids than what you personally want. So yeah, I'd never really gotten the luxury of doing travel. And travel is a luxury, no matter where you go. And then about 4 years ago, or a little over 4 years ago, I was on a business trip to California. And on the way back, I accidentally got stranded in O'Hare Airport overnight. I was trying to track down, I had lost my lucky jacket through TSA. I was trying to track it down. I saved the jacket, and I still have it. It's still my favorite lucky jacket. But I missed the announcement that my plane was boarding. And when I looked up, the door was closed. And I was like, oh, no. So I got locked in O'Hare Airport overnight. I had 12 hours to kill before the next flight. And I was like, well, I'm not going to sleep on the floor. And I'm not going to take the chance of oversleeping and missing my next flight because then I'm going to live in this airport. So I just started walking around the airport and having fun. And this was when Twitter was still a thing. And I was just tweeting about all the stuff I was doing in the airport. And I had a great night that night. Like I made a whole bunch of new friends on the staff. They have a dinosaur in there, and I found an arcade. And like, if you walk around airports, there's always a ton of art. There's a lot of people who do a lot of stuff to make airports entertaining. And nobody has the time to stop and look at them, or they're just not thinking about it. And I had the whole night to myself. So I had a grand old time in there, just being myself, doing what I love. And then the next morning I get on the plane at 7. And when I land back in Baltimore a few hours later, my phone is blowing up. This has gone beyond viral. And I've been viral before for several things as a writer and a chef. I'd never gone this viral. The nation was fascinated by the fact that I could have a good time in an airport. And I was like, what is wrong with you people? Like, how spoiled are you? I was like, I got an extra 12 hours, like, where I didn't have to be with my kids or, like, doing laundry. I have fun no matter where I go. And that's when I learned, I was like, I have a very different perspective on things. Like, I'm somebody who, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be somewhere that I'm like a treasure hunter. Like, I'm a thrifter. I'm a history nut. I'm a gregarious person, and I love talking to people. So no matter where I end up, I have a great time. And then I was like, well, what kind of cities do I want to travel to? And I was getting offers for press trips, and I'd gone to like some fancy resorts, and those bore me. I'm so bored at the beach. I don't know what you're supposed to do there. Like look at the water
Yes, I know.
and then you go in the water and then you jump around. I'm like, I'm done in 10 minutes. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But then I got to go to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I was like, what is in Grand Rapids? What is Grand Rapids, Michigan? And I had the best time. I went to the Gerald Ford Presidential Library. I met a man who owned a ham store and he took me on a tour of his ham facilities. I met all sorts of interesting locals and architects and bar owners. And I mean, that's when you go into a place where you don't have any expectations and it can just surprise and delight you. It is nothing but discovery and adventure. So that's what I started doing. I started focusing on cities that, I grew up in New York City, where New York City is my lousy hometown. It is very boring and mundane to me. But Cleveland or like a small town or something, like that's all foreign and exciting. So I go to second and third tier cities. I go to places that nobody would ever pick to go on a vacation, but they might find themselves there anyway, or maybe they are cutting down on expenses and they need to take a local road trip instead of a big trip to Disney World or something. And I prove to you that you could have an amazing time wherever you end up. It has nothing to do with the expectations of a destination. It has everything to do with your attitude and anything. I've never gone on a bad trip. I've gone to cities. I've gone to Buffalo. I've gone to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I've gone to Greensville, South Carolina. I have the best time everywhere. So that's what I do. I go to cities and I show them, I'm like, hey, you really are special. You are magic. There's so many things here that you can't find anywhere else. And I teach people how to have a damn good time.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I think that once you've done New York the 12th time or London the 15th time, it's kind of what else is there in the world? And I agree with you that the secondary and tertiary destinations often are the more interesting ones. And I've been to Cleveland, had a good time there, had some really good food. Central Florida, Lakeland area, we did a project there a couple of years ago. And again, I don't go with any expectations like you, and you just expect, and I had some great pizza there, some really good barbecue, some really pretty scenery. I saw alligators, all kinds of crazy
Amazing
things.
I grew up in Brooklyn and there are no alligators in Brooklyn.
Thankfully.
There are no little lizards running around the parks. We have pigeons and I was just in Jacksonville a few weeks ago and there's lizards running around everywhere. That's delightful. If it's different for you, then it's magical, it's miraculous. And there's a good chance you'll never be in that place again. So for the 2, 3, 4 days you're there, you only have that 2, 3, 4 days to experience everything.
Yeah.
And you have that time for that place and its people to tell you a story that you don't know. So you just have to be open to listening to it. And it's still amazing to me that there's all this in front of so many people and they can't see it. And it makes me really sad for them. So I try to help people. And what I do specifically, because the media has changed so much that once upon a time, I would go to a place and I would write a story and then people would read it. And now we all know algorithms control everything. Media has changed remarkably and dramatically. And I don't have that kind of editorial freedom anymore. I can't write a story. And even if I do write a story and I get it placed, there's an excellent chance it might never be seen. But I connect these places that may not have any chance to get any kind of exposure with people who do have power and influence in storytelling, people at big media corporations or events. I keep things on the radar of chefs. So, when people are looking for interesting things or new projects and I'm a punk rock girl. I'm a punk rock girl. All the stuff that I listen to are bands nobody's heard of, the restaurants I eat are the places that nobody goes to. And when people want to know, when people who make decisions want to know what's cool, they call me and I tell them about Columbus, Ohio. And I can tell them about Newark, New Jersey.
Columbus is a gem. It's true. Yeah.
It's Columbus shocked. I was only in Columbus for 2 days and I cannot wait to go back. There is so much I did not see in that city. There's so many things I didn't know. It's got well over 1 million people. It's the largest city in Ohio, and it's still growing. The food scene shocked the hell out of me. There's Arnold Schwarzenegger hosts a gigantic bodybuilding competition there every, I think, January. It is one of the largest bodybuilding competitions in the world. I've talked to a few chefs down there about that.
Yeah.
And the stories, just sitting there and at the bar and listening to them was so much fun. And if you're in Columbus, Ohio, you could just, I mean, I cannot say enough things about talking to the staff at any restaurant or at any bar, asking them about their lives, asking them to tell their stories. They'd love to tell their stories. They will entertain you so much.
Yeah.
That's like probably my number one travel tip. Just go in and look at everybody as a friend that you haven't met yet, and any place will delight you.
Yeah, I do that too. I look at servers in restaurants or bartenders as storytellers. I ask them their advice. But what I wanted to ask you was, because you work a lot in these kind of secondary destinations, what do you think it is about these overlooked cities that they have that the more famous destinations don't?
Affordability. When I was coming up, now I became a celebrity chef in New York City by accident. Again, I was born in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn did not used to be a hip place. People used to make fun of Brooklyn. Nobody would go to Brooklyn. But Brooklyn was affordable. So that's where I had opened up my business. And I knew a lot of other young makers who were people who could not afford Manhattan rents, and they were going to Brooklyn because this is where we could afford things. And we were doing interesting things with food. And then suddenly that became the zeitgeist. And now we see what Brooklyn is. Brooklyn, I can't afford to live there anymore. And everybody who started that scene, none of them live there anymore either. But in a city, if an artist can't afford to live in a city, you're not going to have interesting things happen in a city. You're going to have corporate stuff. You're going to have chain stuff. You're going to have stuff that is beholden to investors, to profit margins. It's food that has to answer to somebody financially.
Yeah.
In a small city, if you can afford your rent, if you can afford to pay your staff, if you can afford to eke out a meager living for yourself, you can make the food you want. You can do the sorts of, like, collaborate with local farms and other businesses. You can take risks. You can take chances. Sometimes it's successful. Sometimes it isn't. But I also have an interesting definition of what is quote unquote good food. Like, I mean, I know what good food is, and when I have it, I love it. But I also love bad food sometimes. I love food that it can tell a story about a place. Like, food is something that connects every human being. It's us, it's food, water, oxygen. That's it. Everything else is just gravy, but food, water, oxygen, we all need it. And like in Jacksonville a few weeks ago, I had a sandwich at a place. It was called the Camel Rider. And I was like, that sounds interesting. And then when I got it, it was just like a bologna and cheese sandwich with iceberg lettuce covered in Italian dressing stuffed in a pita bread. And I was like, this isn't that good. But then I started looking into it, and that sandwich, actually, it started in Jacksonville decades ago. They had a very large Middle Eastern immigrant population coming into Jacksonville, Florida, when it was still a barely developed city in like the late 1800s. And it slowly trickled in over time. And America in the early 20th century was not the most hospitable place for immigrants, and Florida is still not necessarily known for that, but there's this huge immigrant population. And they were like, well, Camel Rider was a derogatory term that people were calling them. And they were like, well, what if we take our bread, this pita bread, which is exotic in 1960? It's like, oh, it's this weird circle bread. It has a pocket. It's not Wonder Bread. This was hot cuisine in the 60s. And they're like, and then we'll stuff it with things people from Florida know about. And that becomes a bridge. That becomes a bridge for this community and this new community that's coming there and saying, hey, Florida is our home now too. And that sandwich is a regional specialty in Jacksonville, and you won't find it anywhere else. And it's not good enough to leave the confines of Jacksonville. But I'm sitting at this rickety lunch counter in this place that was open to like 1975. And I'm eating the sandwich. The girl next to me, I hear her talking about how her boyfriend got arrested last night. In the corner, there's like an elderly couple who's eating, and like they're not talking to each other because, you know, they say everything with their eyes. You have people walking in and talking to the cashier by name. And you're sitting there and it's like you're in, I don't want to say an Edward Hopper painting, but you're in something. You're in something kind of mystical and special. You're an observer in somebody else's world. And that whole story I found just eating this lousy sandwich. And that lousy sandwich suddenly became a very beautiful thing to me. So, food is also, it's a perspective thing. You got to look at it from every different angle, like art.
Yeah.
Say, well, what is this? What story is this telling? And you don't always have to go for the quote unquote best. I don't believe in the best. I believe in different. I believe in finding what you got. And sometimes there's hits and sometimes there's misses. But yeah, it's a lot more fun to be surprised in a place like Jacksonville, Florida than New York City. And then I went to a restaurant called Othello, which does upscale Middle Eastern food. It was phenomenal. It was some of the best pita bread I'd ever had. They make it all there themselves. It's unbelievable. And a tiny little sleepy street corner, and the owners are a husband and wife who live down the block. And the owner, her grandfather came from Syria 3 generations ago to Jacksonville. And now look, his granddaughter is a real American. And she's not a camel rider. She's making real pita bread. And people are lining up for it. And that's America. That's the story of America.
I love
It's
it.
a beautiful thing.
What would you say makes a food story worth telling?
I really think that there's such it's a human element. It's always the human element. You have to ask the basic journalist questions beforehand on any piece of anything. Okay,
Yeah.
So why does this food exist? Where did it come from? Examine everything. And if one of those things is actually interesting, you have the story. Sometimes it's the history. I love taking the history angle. Sometimes it's the person serving it to you. When I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I was looking for something that was very, very special just to Grand Rapids, not like a Michigan thing. Like, what do you have locally? And I'd heard some rumblings about something called an olive burger. And it's a burger topped with this olive mix. And I found this old dive bar, I believe it's called the Broadway. And it was in this dilapidated industrial section of Grand Rapids. And I walk in, and it's a dingy, dark, old man bar. And it's Christmas themed. It is got cigarette machines and all of that stuff from back in the day, but there's Christmas decorations everywhere. And there's an old woman behind the counter, and her sister is on the grill. Another elderly woman who is a butch lesbian who's about 65 years old with about 3 teeth. Her name is Goose. She has a lot of opinions on the olive burger. She's got a raspy voice, like she's been smoking 3 packs of Camel a day since she was 5. And I sit down and I start saying, hey, I've heard about the olive burger. I'm from out of town. And when people have something special to them, they love talking about it. They love sharing it because that's a gift from them to you.
Uh-huh.
They have something special that means a lot to them and they love it. And for them to be able to have the opportunity, not just to serve you, but share that story, they get so excited. And Goose has opinions on who serves a good olive burger and who doesn't serve a good olive burger. So I had hers, and it was great. The woman makes a fantastic burger. But it ultimately, the spread on the top, it's just like mayonnaise and olive juice and chopped olives, maybe some garlic powder. It's nothing that special that you couldn't make it at home at any corner of America. But you could not eat it at a Christmas-themed bar with Goose explaining to you why hers is better, and then explaining every Christmas decoration in the place and why she picked it, and telling you about her plans to next year was going to be Winter Wonderland. It was like May when I went, and she already had everything planned out. And I'm eating this burger, and I'm like, this is the most special place I've ever been. And this is the most special moment, in that one moment, you realize you're like, I have experienced something that I'm going to have a story that I could tell for the rest of my life. I think about that a lot, especially when it comes to bad situations. I always say nobody ever talks about the party where everything goes right.
In that situation
Oh,
there,
sorry.
I mean, Goose is the character worth traveling for. The burger is almost secondary.
Yeah. And if you're there, And you're like, I have to go and I have to see that. I have to be in this environment.
Yeah.
Like, that's your person. That's just, I'm like, it's not about the burger. It's about
The
the fact
experience.
that like they inherited that bar from their dad. And the burger was the thing that brought me there. And my appreciation of the burger is what got me all these new friends. Everyone at the bar started talking to me, old factory workers who were retired and they're at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I asked them questions about what Grand Rapids used to be like. And they love sharing their stories. Everybody wants somebody to talk to them. Everybody wants a friend. Adults say it is so hard to make friends, and that is completely untrue. Kids, all you have to do is say hello. If everybody wants to make friends and says it's hard to make friends, that means everybody's out there looking for friends. Somebody's just got to be brave enough to make the first move. And there is no better time to do that when traveling, because you might be shy at home. You might be embarrassed to talk to strangers at home. But when you're traveling, you're somebody else. And you're never going to see any of these people again. You have a moment to have like a one wild, crazy night with your best new friends. So, and you need help. People love helping tourists. So you should take that to your advantage. Ask people everything. And they want to be generous. And that's also something, it gives me a lot of hope in America. I mean, it's a hard time to be an American right now. And there's a lot of hard reasons, a lot of things to get sad and depressed about. But when you get out there and you start talking to people, it really changes the way you see everything. You realize that there's a lot more good out there than you realize.
You have some great stories talking to local people and the places you go. And like you said, you can make friends anywhere. But there's another side to destination marketing, and that is the destinations telling the stories, the tourism boards telling the stories, and they're telling a very different story. So what would you say that a tourism board should stop doing when they're talking about food?
A lot of tourism boards talk about food as if they invented food, or if they're trying to compete with a city like New York. They're not really leaning into their distinct identity.
Yeah.
A lot of DMOs, they're trying to be something that they're not. They're trying to compete with a city like New York or Chicago or London, a big city that's making all this hot cuisine. There's nothing wrong with being exactly who you are. There is nothing wrong with being a little bit different. If I wanted New York food, I'd go to New York.
Yeah.
It really is. You have to dig deeper in your stories now. A plate of food we had anywhere. I can make your regional recipes, or I can make things at home. Good food is not lacking. Years ago, the case was that you could only find good stuff in a big city. And now it's everywhere, or at least decent food. When I go to a lot of cities where I find good stuff, like the DMO will bring me in, but I don't really listen to any of their suggestions. I take some of them. And again, I love DMO people. We always, when they take me out to lunch, we do have the best time. But yeah, they're not going to go into the gritty places and the little things. And those are the stories that pop. Those are the stories that, what you've got to like dig around. It's such a competitive world trying to it is such a competitive world trying to get attention, because ultimately a lot of places are all pitching the same stories.
Yeah, very similar.
Come to our downtown. It's like, we have a great craft beer scene. So does every small city.
Yeah, we focus on local ingredients. So
yes,
does everyone.
It's like cool. It's like great, we work with local farms. I don't care. Or these are my grandmother's recipes. I have a grandma too. Nothing is unique. And these are stories that could have gotten you placed 20 years ago, but we live in a world of algorithms and novelty and things changing faster than anybody can keep up with. And that's why I do the work that I do. Like, I work on a very different model. I'm not a traditional PR agency where I'm out there trying to get writers to come in and then having them pitch stories. And then, this is heartbreaking news. So if I pitch a story to a publication and the algorithm has no interest in it, they're going to say no. And most smaller cities, they're never going to really, nobody wants to read a food story about Buffalo. The algorithm does not want that. But say I find an editor who's like, well, you know what? I really believe in that story. Let's run it anyway. And then we do, and it's an amazing piece. And you at the DMO and you see it, you're like, that's great. You never see the metrics behind it. And when on the back end, when you do look at the metrics, nobody's seeing it. Nobody. We're talking about the difference between millions and dozens in a lot of instances. And then when you look at who has seen the page, it's very evident from the data. It's not people. It's either skimmers, bots, or people are reading the first paragraph or two and then leaving the site. So just getting a click work placement, it really doesn't mean a lot of anything. And I've gone on a few group press trips with people and seen, where other people are writing for. And I'm like, these are blogs that don't get any traffic and they're not going to actually make any difference to the DMO. But the PR company gets to say that they had a placement. Yeah. So our means change, our methods have to change, and our stories have to change. The more a city embraces exactly what it is, the more it doesn't shy away from the rough parts. I actually love it when a city doesn't shy away from its rough parts, when it doesn't apologize to me for what it is. And that, so many of the cities I go to are post-industrial cities. Those are my favorite places. If you are looking for a good time, find an old city in the Rust Belt that's on its way to come back. Buffalo,
Pittsburgh.
I went to Pittsburgh. I'm dying to go to Pittsburgh. Yeah. I went to Buffalo 2 years ago. I do not shut up about Buffalo. I had the greatest time in Buffalo, especially if you are an architecture person. Go to Buffalo. You will just lose your mind. But for a while, Buffalo was apologizing for better example, in Baltimore, where I live. I moved to Baltimore because it reminded me of New York City from when I was a kid. Uh-huh. This is a very rough around the edges city. And people are always making excuses for it or apologizing I'm sorry about the decay or this. I'm like, no, that is wonderful. Because the decay is us as America. This is still us. When I see garbage who made the garbage? Who made the garbage? I don't live in a world where these problems don't exist. That's why we travel. To remind ourselves why we're human. To remind ourselves about the beauty and the resiliency of life. To remind ourselves where we were and where we could be. It reminds me of especially in a small city has the best stories because they're all about resiliency. Nobody's coming to hand you a giant check in Akron, Ohio. Nobody's going to be saying, oh, hey, I'm going to give you a blank check to open your dream restaurant in Peoria, Illinois. These scrappy people bootstrapping stuff because they believe in it. It's outsider art. It is passion. Maybe you'll get a more glossy plate of food in a city like Paris, but you won't find the heart that you do in a place where the odds are stacked against somebody. And never apologize for your grit because the grit is the grit and that's what makes you beautiful.
Yeah. And really too, I think you could say that the love goes into the food because when you're just a metric, you're a number, you're another diner, you're table number 32. When I lived in New York City, I would go to this one restaurant and I always knew to request table 32. That was my table, right? I how it was, but I was customer 32 and that's a number, right? And the food was good and I got to know the server and the staff and all that. And that was nice, but it wasn't like the chef is in the back and his wife is the server and they're bringing in, hey, love, that kind of thing. And what you doing in town? And that kind of really down to earth stuff that they bring there. They pour out their hearts and souls to be able to stay open and to follow their dreams and to serve their grandmother's recipes to people who still love them today.
I'm telling you, I used to own a small business. I'll get the little guy. If a place has a line down the block and you got to wait, and I don't wait on lines. If a place got a line, it doesn't need my money. They're doing fine. But you go to a small restaurant in a small city, they are so happy you're there. They've been waiting their whole lives for you to show up. And even if you like the food or you don't like the food, you know that your money went to somebody who needs it. Your money went to financing somebody's dream. Your money went into a local economy. You left a piece of yourself there. And sometimes I actually do kind of enjoy it when the food is mixed, especially when I'm traveling with other people, because that gives us something to talk about. We could talk about what we like about the food or what we don't like about the food. If they are regional recipes, we can look them up at the table and talk about them. If we don't understand them, we ask the staff questions. Oh, is this a Cedar Rapids thing? Is this an Evansville thing? And it's how you can pull detail out of stuff and you make new friends. They forgot the human part. If you've pre-researched your entire itinerary and everything was from Google reviews and metrics
and
online.
And having AI do your itinerary for you, yes.
Like, why are you going to a place to see new buildings, to experience new weather, to look at a different type of tree everywhere? No. And I just went back home to New York City a couple of weeks ago, so I can see how that's actually practically impossible for now. Oh God, that city has changed. Every time I go up there,
yeah, it has
changed. It makes me angrier and angrier what happens. And because there's Targets everywhere.
Yeah, it's lost everything that made it special.
Everything that made it special is gone. And that's why I moved to Baltimore, because Baltimore feels, if you want to know what New York was like in the 80s and 90s when it was cool, don't come to Baltimore, because I like it and I can afford it. Go to Cleveland. I bet they have something. But yeah, if you're in a city where you're a sheep, you're a commodity, that's nothing special. You get to say, oh, you come home, people go, oh, how was New York? You're like, oh, we went to the Met and we saw that painting that everybody's seen. And then we went to the MoMA and then we saw a Broadway show and it was based on a Disney movie that everybody's seen. What kind of stories are these? What kind of, your stories are the way that your vacation lives forever. You're in town for a few days, but the stories you tell, those last your entire life.
Yeah.
That should be your goal when you're traveling, is to do something or meet somebody that is so bizarre. You're going to be talking about, like when I went to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I went to the Gerald Ford grave and library. Like, who goes to Gerald Ford's library? I did. And I talked to friends about that all the time because it was insane.
But you created your own story from it. And Allison, I've got to ask you about stories and how media is changing, because I think I could talk to you for hours, especially if a bottle of wine was involved. But you work a lot with editors and producers. And what would you say, what are the kind of food travel stories that are getting their attention right now?
It is really hard to say. We are in a truly scary moment. We are in a truly scary moment as far as media goes. I just left the Washington Post. Most of my editors were let go a couple of months ago. Most places I know are letting go of their staff. A lot of expectations. Places I used to freelance for are no longer taking freelance pitches because there's no more budgets for them. Like, the people who love writing and journalism and travel and food, like the people who are passionate about it, they're not the people who make the decisions when it comes to money and numbers and what's getting paid. The people at the top look at spreadsheets. All they care about is results. Yeah. So 50 years ago, you're pitching a food magazine. They're passionate, like Bon Appetit is passionate about culture and driving culture. They live for this. And the people who work there now, they absolutely still do for the magazine. But the people who run the numbers, who make the decisions, these are just assets to them.
Yeah.
They're not things with any kind of value. And the way we need to approach storytelling has to change radically. It needs to start getting more human. We have to create brand new paths. We have to create brand new ways for people to start sharing stuff. I don't know how familiar you are with dead internet theory. Dead internet theory, for a long time, people considered it a conspiracy theory. The idea that nothing online is real and everything is created by bots. We are now slowly, actually, I don't want to say slowly. It's been a very slow approach and now a rapid descent into that. When everything is AI slop, and everything looks the same and everything that you put out can be pirated, the information becomes less reliable. And what is really terrifying, I think, for DMOs is that you no longer control your information. So the AI is not actually intelligent. It is a language learning model. It is pulling from data all over the internet and synthesizing it and repeating it back as fact. So if you are a city that has lots of mentions in legacy media, New York Times, Washington Post, these things will get repeated. If you have that kind of sway, the algorithm will continue to pull from it. If you're a small city who has never had control of their own story, you don't have any control over what the AI says, and you're not going to get it. It's truly, I wish I had good news. I wish I had some, like, if we were doing this 5 years ago, I could have been a little bit more optimistic. But at a certain point, you go, we lost this war already. Like, everybody's getting ready to fight a battle in a war that we lost quite a bit ago. So when that happens, sure, everything that we know right now is gone, which is terrifying. But that also means we get to build brand new things that nobody has tried before. And we get to experiment. And I think the humanity is so critical in it. Something that I've been doing a lot of is storytelling events. I've been doing this personally, a lot of things about speaking. We've been hosting. I just did a wonderful dinner with Bill Oakley. Bill was the writer and showrunner of The Simpsons during the Golden Age in the early 90s. And he became a big food guy. And he got really into regional foods. And now he's been touring America doing these pop-up dinners where I think we charge $75 a ticket when we put it together here. And we put together a 7-course menu of all different regional American foods. And Bill gave a slideshow presentation, and we would talk about like St. Louis, or we talk about like we did fried ravioli, or we talked about the history of the nacho. And then the food comes out, and we were all sitting at these big communal tables. People made new friends. It was interactive. It was participatory. We sold this out very quickly. When you can do things that actually get people out of the house, but not just get them out of the house. It's not enough to say like, hey, we're having a dinner, come. That's not exciting. You need to, we're in a world where people need joy and they need hope, and that we're desperate for connection. And suddenly our phones are just filled with AI slop. So we're not getting that, and everybody is lost. It's almost a blessing in disguise in a way. If we all sit down and we're all very honest about where we have been for the past couple of years, I don't think anybody would truly say we're happy about the state of media or the state of travel writing. I don't think there's a chef alive who would say, oh, I love having to try to make a new trend food every week so Instagram might pay attention to me. I don't think there's anybody who enjoys existing in the system that we've created, because it's gotten so far away from the heart and soul of what food and travel is about. It's just become about numbers and money and returns and in and out and experience and come and consume and don't talk to the people. By losing what we have, we're inadvertently getting back to what travel is about. I think we have to go back to remembering what human connection is, what storytelling means, what it means to make people really care about a place, not get clicks on a piece, not to drive traffic, but to get people to care. Because when people care, they become advocates. Do you know how many people I've talked into going to Buffalo? Not in the media, just in my personal life. Just telling people in my personal life about Buffalo. And professionally, when I go and I do talk to all my many, many friends in media, hospitality, all of that, and I tell them, they can't wait. Suddenly, oh my gosh, that weekend in St. Thomas sitting on the beach doing nothing, that doesn't look good anymore. They want to go stay in an 1870s insane asylum that's now a hotel and architecture museum in Buffalo.
With ghosts too, don't forget the ghosts.
You got to look past the playbook that you're already doing. Everything is broken. Everything that you have been doing, it doesn't work anymore. And yeah, that's scary, but it's also exciting. That means we have the freedom to start telling the stories we want to tell. It means we have the freedom to start experimenting with new ways to do things. And if we fail, well, you know what? We were failing anyway because AI already destroyed everything. So take it as an opportunity. Like, be proud of who you are. Experience your own magic. Don't try to be anyone else. Tell the story that you are, because every place has a story. Every place has magic. You just got to open your eyes and look for it.
I always say that every place has good food, and I will always find it. And I'll go places and people think, you went where? And yeah, and I had the best burger or the best pancakes or whatever it is, the best French fries. Right? It doesn't matter. And I like you always find a good time. I always find the good food. I don't know. It's like this gene that I have that I can always find a good meal. But
how good does it feel to be that guy, to be the guy? And also when you find good food in an unexpected place, it is literally like finding treasure.
Yeah.
You know, if you think of the entire world as a scavenger hunt and it's an adventure and we're like, oh, we have to find the best French fries in that area. And if you find the best burger, food, or whatever in a place that nobody's been before, you're like an explorer from the old days. You're like somebody who just found an uncharted island. You're like, I know a burger, none of you know about it. And now I get to go home and I get to tell all of my friends.
Bragging rights.
Yeah. And when you have enough good stories, suddenly people start calling you. And that's what people call me and they tell me, hey, what's hot right now? What's got you excited? And they want to hear my stories because, I mean, they talk to another PR rep and they're just like, this restaurant in New York and all of these things from my list. Nobody's talking about what I do. And nobody's having as much fun as I am. I guarantee you, no one is having as much fun in these places as I am. I am delighted from the moment I leave the ground to the second I leave.
Okay. So Allison, this has been fascinating. I especially love how you were talking about how we just need to reinvent everything that has been destroyed by AI and where we have gotten to today. How would you talk to a tourism board in a small town today, like the ones that you work with, where you were saying before that they will never get noticed because of where the algorithms are? What is your advice to them to get noticed?
I think at first it starts with a shift in attitude. I think it's really hard to pitch anything that you don't truly believe in. And I'm not saying that people maybe, don't believe in the places they are, their jobs, but as human beings, all of us, every human being on earth, at the core is a seed of insecurity. People who aren't a little bit insecure are psychopaths. And most of the people, we're just trying to give the illusion that we know what we're doing. I'm 45 years old, for the record. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm a best-selling author. I'm a James Beard nominated writer. I've been a celebrity chef. I've been on TV. I've done everything. I have a movie deal. I do not know what I'm doing. And I will tell my children this nonsense. We are just making things up as we go along. And we hide this from the world. So when we look at what we're doing, like whether it's a city we're representing or a story we need to tell, it's very natural for all of us to look and be like, oh, well, we're not them. I'm not New York. I'm not Chicago. I'm not the big city. You look at all the things that you don't have and you feel like you need to compensate for those. And this is very normal and it's very human. This is our instinct. And you have to fight that instinct. You have to go against it. Don't look at everything you don't have. Look at everything you do have. Lean into it. Realize how special it is. Learn how to love it. Because when you believe in things, the passion comes through. It doesn't sound like I'm getting a pitch from somebody who's like, I'm doing this for the paycheck. And the moment they stop paying me, I do not care about this place anymore. I can tell who cares about a place. The DMO people that I listen to and their suggestions, they listen to me first. I'm like, I don't want to go to a craft brewery. I'm into hardcore music. I'm into underground, raves. I'm into, oddities. I'm into weird stuff. If you can understand that and you start diving into a city and start seeing it from different angles, from what different people like, the weird things, and then you fall in love with it and you go, wow, this is the best place ever. And this is a big truth about life where a lot of us, we might have a hard trouble advocating for ourselves and we might have trouble believing in what we personally do. But it's always easy to do it for our friends. It's always easy to do it for people that we seem to believe in. So I know this sounds very antithetical in a world that has told us that everything should be numbers and metrics and growth and data. But you've got to lead with your heart, and you have to open your heart, and opening your heart is scary. But when you open your heart and you genuinely love a place, and you genuinely understand why, not that it's nice, not that the food is good. Saying the food is good isn't enough. Tell me why. Tell me how it connects to the history, to the people. Why this is the only place on earth. Like, why could I only experience that sandwich in Jacksonville? It's a bologna sandwich, but I could only have it in Jacksonville. Own that, love it. And when you feel it deeply in your heart, when you let a city and its people and its struggles and its moxie into your heart, it comes through, and you'll figure out ways, because you got to make up everything now. We're all doing new things. It's a weird time. You got to be brave, but my God, if you have love on your side and you've got a good heart and you're excited, it makes being brave a hell of a lot easier.
Indeed, it is a very weird time, but I love what you said. Those are definitely words to live by. Allison, thank you so much for your time today. It was really a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope I get to come back one day. I have a lot more adventures, and if anybody out there is representing a weird city, I'd love to see it. Let's party.
Thanks again, Allison.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the Taste of Place podcast. This episode is brought to you by the World Food Travel Association and its Taste of Place movement. We'd like to hear from you. We invite you to share your ideas, questions, and thoughts about the podcast by emailing us at help@worldfoodtravel.org, or you can connect with us and comment about the episode on major social media platforms. Special thanks to our guest, Allison Robicelli, and our sincerest thanks to you for joining us. I'm Eric Wolf, wishing you a safe, happy, and productive month ahead.